Alright, welcome back to another devlog for, I don't really know what I'm going to call this game. Right now I'm just going to call it Reverse Vampire Survivors because that's kind of what I'm going for, but the whole thing that you're seeing now is a little bit of work that I did over the Thanksgiving break that we had there. I know that there was a devlog that just went up. I'm trying my best to kind of balance my life with this development work, and basically between job, other job, family, and other stuff like that, as well as developing this, you gotta choose some areas to give. And I'm already not a very good video editor, so the area I chose to give up was video editing. Now I could do all the cool effects you see and stuff like that and whatnot, but I really don't have the time. Nor do I really intend to make a lot of money, if any money really at all, ever from YouTube. So I more publish these devlogs to keep myself honest, help people out, maybe do some live development so people can get an idea of what it looks like. You can pause, read my code, stuff like that, as well as just kind of see how the development process goes. I don't cut out my errors, I don't cut out any problems that I have and stuff like that. So I think that's very helpful for people to see that even somebody who's a little seasoned of a programmer, I'm definitely not a professional video game developer, but I am a pretty decent programmer, just to see how hard it can be for even somebody who's been doing it for years. I think it's very important to kind of watch people struggle, just so whenever you struggle, you don't think that that's not normal, because it totally is. But shifting back from my little tangent there, this is just work that I've done over the holidays. So what I've done is I've really added this round timer, because I feel like it's very important to kind of time the rounds of how long it takes you to take out a hero or something like that. So I've added that in there. There's no function, it's really just a label. That's something I'm probably going to be doing this devlog. And then I've also added just this bottom bar here, this whole entire bottom UI panel, and it's a bunch of HBox containers. So it's one gigantic HBox container that contains a whole bunch of VBox containers. So the entire bottom panel UI here is one gigantic HBox container. So it takes every single VBox container and separates up everything accordingly to whatever size I chose. Now there's two VBox containers here that are not actually visible right now, and that's because I really didn't know if I wanted to keep them in, because I had a spawn button, and I don't really like that. I like the idea of players just spawning in enemies via a button press or something like that. Having a spawn button feels a little silly. Maybe it's kind of helpful for the first few times that you spawn something, but I feel like the screen space that it takes up versus the usability of how many times people are actually going to click spawn rather than hit spacebar or some specific key is pretty thin. I also have a hero select VBox. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave that here or if I'm going to put that up in here in the corner. I do have some plans for up here in the corner for other things, so the hero select VBox might remain there. We'll just have to see. That might toggle on and off visibility depending on if you have multiple heroes or not. And now the reasoning for that VBox is because if we're going to have multiple heroes and the camera follows a single hero now, we don't have that like in the prototype. If we had multiple heroes, they all were bound to this particular view screen. That's not the case anymore with multiple heroes. They can just wander wherever they go. So we need to eventually implement the functionality of how to switch between heroes, as well as spawn in multiple heroes from the main menu. You have to have the ability to switch to that hero. And one thing also is all the heroes here have the spawn points attached to them. So if you have multiple heroes, and say you have a hero all the way over here on the left, and he's the one that you're not fighting or anything like that, and you don't deactivate his spawn points, monsters are going to spawn right here, probably about halfway, and they'll be really close to this hero. So it kind of messes up the flow of the game. So I'm thinking whenever you would switch heroes, it would switch the active camera, and it would also switch the spawn nodes that are active. Now with the way that we have our spawn nodes set up, I am going to need to kind of rework that. I might just have to dump all of them or something like that, or get an array of heroes and then kind of tag them with something at the very beginning of the game. I'm not entirely sure how to handle that. I'm really worrying about multi-hero later as far as handling the spawning and viewing of them. I think for now, just being able to support the ability of, hey, there's two heroes on the screen, they both attack, monsters seek them out the same, all that kind of stuff. All that functionality is good. I've tested that. It's just a matter of doing the balance and actually being able to toggle between heroes is something I haven't quite figured out yet. But I will get there. I think that's kind of like not an end stage. It's definitely coming up in these future devlogs because I feel like part of the challenge is having multiple heroes because it definitely extends your games. But one of the things I need to do is kind of figure out the scoring system and figure out a bunch of other stuff related to that. So I think for this devlog, what I'm going to do is I am a big fan of the time lapses, but I think this particular one, I may or may not time-lapse. We'll just have to see. If there's a sharp cut, you'll know that it took me a very long time to do, or longer than I wanted to time-lapse it, because I don't really want to put out, 45-minute devlogs where just, most of it's time-lapse and kind of a lot of silly stuff is happening. But if it doesn't take that long, I'll keep it in. If it does take quite some time, I will cut it out and just kind of do a shorter cut-together devlog that recaps my changes. But let it be known that I am a fan of the time lapses. I do like the time lapses. I like adding captioning as far as what I'm up to in the time lapses. I just started doing that in the last devlog. So I really do like doing that because it shows people, hey, I mess up, I fail, here's how I fixed it, here's the kind of stuff I did. It's a lot of pausing on your part, but I do feel like being able to just watch live development is very cool. And I've been throwing on some music. I'm a little torn on the music. I imagine most people just pause it, and it's a little bit of a hassle to kind of get music, so I'm 50-50 whether or not I'll keep up the music. I would love some feedback on if the music is helpful for you guys or not. I know if I watch time-lapse videos, a lot of the times I play my own music, so we'll just have to see. But that being said, I think what I am going to do right now is get... I was going to say I was going to do the monster select and spawn in functionality, but that's kind of already implemented. That's a little bit less fun. I'm wondering if I should... Because one thing that I want to do, and I would love some feedback on this too, all the devlog stuff I love feedback for. One of the things I want to do with Monster Select is, because we did the leveling system in the last one of the things that I want to do is have it be like a drafting system. So whenever you would start, you would just have zombies available to be selected down here in your little box. And then say you would level up and you would get the option of hey, pick a new monster, upgrade your current monsters, do all that stuff. And then if you picked bat or whatever, you would get a bat button down here, so then you could toggle that. I'm also toying with the idea of just changing the composition of waves as opposed to spawning in extras, but I like the idea of spawning in extras. I think that adds a lot of kind of tactics to it to kind of get them at the right time. And then it also kind of nullifies the point of having MP. So I'm kind of toying with the idea of having an MP exchange system down here in the bottom right. Not entirely sure if that's something that I want to keep, but I do like that idea as MP kind of becomes less and less important. It was very important in the prototype. I think it's going to start phasing out in importance later, because I would love to have a lot of your upgrades and stuff associated with just upgrading your from leveling up. You get a draft system similar to Vampire Survivors or other games. You just get 3 options, 4 options, or whatever. And then you pick those, and that lets you add more monsters, it lets you increase their spawn rate, it lets you increase the health, speed, or the rate at which you generate MP. And, I can always do a balancing pass, I can always just increase the cost of these, but I do eventually want to have in, mini boss monsters and stuff like that, so I think having a draft system will kind of be best. I'm not entirely sure, we'll just have to figure that out. But I think for now, let's just work on getting the zombies and bats to spawn again. So enough rambling. I am just going to sign off here, and we will start the time lapse or a quick cut just to see how long it took me. Alright, I will chat with you guys then. Alright, so that was a lot of back and forth to basically like add 2 lines of code, well, 4 lines of code, 3 lines of code? I don't know. Just to get them to spawn, which was really easy. It was a lot of back and forth on how I want the UI to look, and I really think it's just going to come down to how well I tutorialize it, basically give them an outline. Also, I mean, tutorials are becoming pretty not a thing too much anymore. Like, you know, if we're going with Vampire Survivors, there really is no tutorial. It just throws you in the game, and it's like, alright man, avoid these things, have fun. Like, you have no context. So I think if I just provide a very light tutorial initially, or maybe just even some written instructions or whatever, players will be able to figure it out. Hey, if I click this button, it spawns this thing or whatever. But I do think a little bit of a tutorial would be a good plan. So we're going to go ahead and lean towards that option. But as you can see here, I do have monsters and stuff spawning. So, you know, you just new game, and I just have the cost associated here. I should have some kind of thing that kind of like, you know, dynamically does the costs or whatever. But I think for right now, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. My favorite thing to do is like switch it to the bottom, spawn bats, and then like switch it over. It messes them up pretty good, and I definitely need to figure out a better way to do like spawn sounds and stuff like that. Make it clear that you spawned something. But oh yeah, and then the game crashes at the very end because I didn't implement a game over screen yet. But I do think that that is a good direction to go. I like that. I like that it's just one click, you spawn 5, and you know, if you want more, just keep rapid fire clicking. And that also adds a little bit of an element of like, you know, I'm spawning a bunch of stuff, I'm clicking a bunch of times. That can also be kind of fun. So I think I'm actually going to take the quantity selection out of it and just always do 5. It gives you a pretty good little amount. One thing that I did tinker with that I probably maybe have cut, maybe I kept it in just because it was kind of pointless, was trying to show these buttons nicely. Because right now they're just bog standard buttons with the icon labeled at the top. So I don't have much control over like how big they are, anything like that. So the bottom bar is a little bit bigger than I would like it, but I don't know if it's worth the effort at the moment during this type of testing to really flesh out like a really, really solid UI design, you know, make their own buttons and stuff to get it just the way I like it. I think for just right now, it makes a lot of sense just to keep it the way it is and just have it not be ideal and be okay with it. So monsters can spawn now. So now I can just add monsters, add a button, and then this could be translated to every different level that I make by just literally copying the bottom UI panel and throwing it on a canvas layer and then making sure all the signals are hooked up. Is it a little bit of pain to make sure the signals are hooked up because sometimes that doesn't copy over in Godot? Yeah, a little bit, but you know, one-time effort for, you know, a whole level, that's not too bad. I'm not going to be doing that across too many things, so hopefully it'll just work out. And as far as like their signals, the signals in Godot are kind of like all linked up like that, like basically like where they are in the tree. I don't intend to really change the layout of either the canvas layer or anything like this that's, you know, kind of already established. So it should just kind of work whenever I move it to other scenes, but that'll be determined later. All right, so I think now that I've done some implementation of spawning again, I think I should now work on just trying to keep track of statistics. Now this part I really do want to keep a time lapse of because statistic tracking is a pretty cool little thing to do. And I'm going to be doing statistics tracking to try to determine, come up with some kind of formula to reward the player for how quickly they killed the player, and everything like that. I do kind of, you know, need to do balancing eventually and stuff like that, as well as, you know, implement meta upgrades. But I do think for now that this will be a really good starting point to just have that data in place. And then I'll probably end this devlog after that and kind of, you know, work out how the heck I want to do the implementation later. But I think for now, let's just work on gathering statistics. So figure out what I want to gather and figure out where I'm going to store them. What I'm probably going to do is end up creating some kind of like level manager, or maybe give it a better name than that. You'll probably see me make level manager anyway. but make some kind of level manager here in my little systems node, which is an organizational system that I like to do. Like all my little individual systems that do little things go here. The monster spawn screen isn't in it because that's a carryover from the prototype. If I really wanted to make it really, really nice, I would reorganize all that, but I'm not doing that quite yet. I'm not in the stage of, hey, make everything really, 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 really nice and pretty. I'm making it into the stage of, hey, let's get it all working. Let's figure out like how to expand upon the prototype, make it more fun, and then make everything nice and pretty. So let's go ahead and make a new game manager system here, kind of keep track of all of the statistics and stuff, and then pass that along to the game manager, kind of get like, some context for playing the game, actually getting upgrades and stuff like that, and being able to kind of progressively get stronger as you play the game outside of runs. So let's just get the statistics collected and then check back in with you. All right, I will see you then.
No way.
Alrighty, so we have all that stuff working now. I think it took me about an hour in real time, give or take. But now the time counts, and then all the data is being tracked. It's just not being displayed. And then I just have to figure out how the heck I want to calc the score. I haven't fully decided yet. I'm thinking some of it will be like negative amounts. Maybe I'll start you with a base score and then subtract off of that based on other things and add based on other things. I'm not entirely sure how I want to do that. I think that's going to be a balancing thing I'm going to have to figure out in another devlog. I'll probably come up with a really rudimentary way to just do it for now, just so I can start passing along some meta currency and figuring all that side of it out. But for now, for this devlog, we've actually accomplished a lot. We got monsters spawning again. We got time being tracked. We have other statistics being tracked for scoring systems. I think what I want to work on in the next one will probably be getting those meta systems working. I imagine that'll actually be like a cut up devlog just because that's going to be pretty hard. And then I think one of the other things that I want to work on is like the drafting system to get all your upgrades and stuff. Because I don't particularly love the MP for spawn rate, spawn health, spawn speed, so and such. I like the idea of you being directly rewarded for keeping the player away from XP. And also, maybe adding in some other ways for you to get XP as well. I'm not entirely sure about that, but we'll definitely see. But overall, I think this has been a very productive afternoon hour. So I think I am just going to end it here for Devlog 4 and see what else I can come up with for Devlog 5. All right, I'll see you guys later.